Welcome to Scandinavia, Ant Middleton. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. Thank
you. What is special about being a Special Forces soldier?
It's our magnified attention to detail. I think that's what separates us from the other soldiers. It's that, that mindset, those small things that we accumulate, which stops us from tripping up down the line. And it's just, we're called the thinking soldier. It's because we don't just run in and headlessly do the job. We think about what needs to be done, how best to execute it, and then we carry out the job to the best of our ability.
We have a great Swedish athlete here.
I know,
Do you sometimes work the same way as an athlete in your head?
I think it's all about positive thinking, especially in the military, especially going to war and especially going into these negative situations. You know, war, fighting, it's negative. If you take that on with a negative mindset, you're going to go one way and one way only, and that's very quickly going to go down. You have to attack negatives with positives, OK? And like I said, even with war, you know, there's nothing really positive about it apart from, you know, protecting your country and your countrymen and women. But you have to take that and look at it and flip that into a positive. And it all happens with your mind. But it's also stripping life down to basics. You know, we're complicated human beings and we add complications on top of that. You know, it's almost just accepting or acknowledging a situation and emotion for whatever it is, acknowledging it, processing it and executing it. It's quite a simple process that I use in everything that I do with my life.
Does this make sense to you as well?
Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm. I can recognize something of the experiences that you say that I experienced during a race. There's so many things going on beside the race. There's a guy there standing there giving me drinks during 30K or so, and there's someone on my back of my skis. But the only thing that actually matters is what I'm doing right here, right now, not what's happening in 5 minutes if I'm too tired then or I was too tired 2 minutes ago. It's only a matter of what I'm doing right here, and I think it's like you're saying.
When you were the first man in to go into a Taliban camp, for example, how did you prepare for that?
Everything it's a numbers game, you know. When I was stacking up against the door, my initial thought was, when I go through that door, I know there's someone stood on the other side with a weapon. When I go through that door, what are the chances of that person, that untrained person, getting 1 or 2 bullets off on his weapon? Okay, the chances are quite high. What are the chances of one of those bullets hitting me in the head and killing me outright? That's very slim. You know, it might hit me in my body armor, it might hit me in the leg. So what are the chances of me actually dying? It's slim, because I'm the aggressor, I'm the trained soldier. By the time I get in and finish the job, or my power's on my back, he will come in and finish the job. So the likelihood of them getting a kill shot is very, very slim. So the odds are with me. This is an
assessment you make before you move in?
Repetition. I made these assessments after kicking 10, 15 doors down. You just learn to use this emotion. You learn to sort of do these calculations in your head very, very quickly.
But what about fear? Doesn't that disturb in a way?
Fear is always there. Fear is, you know, people who say they can conquer fear are liars. You can't conquer fear. But what you can do, you can harness fear. And you make it work for you. Fear is an emotion that we all have. You know, I could talk to everyone in the crowd here and they would explain fear to me. We'll all have the same explanation of fear. But it's how we layer it. You know, we have a horrible tendency to complicate everything that happens, right? Fear, acknowledge the fear for what it is, but then we layer it. We go, right, am I going to die? Am I going to come out of this alive? Am I going to see my family again? That's putting negatives on negatives. So you strip the emotion, you strip the situation down to what it is. You don't complicate things. And when you can do that, life almost becomes black and white. It's not, but it almost becomes so simple. And that's how I think. I just think in the simplest terms, and I don't complicate things.
How many have you killed?
I don't look at, you know, I've taken a lot of lives, but what I do remember is not necessarily the people that I've killed, because obviously I'm the first man in. I've done 3 tours of Afghanistan. I'm kicking doors down on a daily basis. We're hunting down Taliban commanders. it's, you know, the list goes on. But what I do remember is not pulling that trigger. What people must remember, that my job is to conserve life, is to save life. I only take life when there's a level of evil that's been surpassed, or I'm in immediate threat, or my pals are in there's immediate danger to life. But what I do remember is being stood there, and I could have taken a shot. And every time, you know, it just wasn't right, and I took my finger off the trigger. Those are the times that I do remember.
But do you think about the fact that you've killed a lot of people that are someone's father?
No.
You are the father of 5 yourself?
No. No, not at all. Like I said, there's good and there's evil in this world. I'm a good man. I know that. And if you surpass, like I said, if you surpass a certain threshold of evil, then you do not deserve to be walking this planet. And that's how I saw it. I never saw it as, again, it was never personal. I never saw it as this is someone's, you know, listen. It's one of those, if you live by the sword, then you must expect to die by the sword. You know, it's just, again, taking extreme ownership of yourself, you know, holding yourself accountable. Listen, if you...
But of course, there are casualties also that are less guilty.
Sure.
Of being evil, as you say.
Yeah.
Have you experienced that?
It comes with the territory. It's part and parcel of conflict. You know, it's part and parcel of being in a combat zone. And don't get me wrong, there are bullies with weapons out there.
You're the man behind the desk. Because the war he's talking about is our war too, or has been. I wonder how you reflect on that. How hard a decision is it to send someone? You mentioned it before Ant came in.
Well, first of all, I admire your attitude, and I totally agree with the way you distinguish between good and evil. But you know, this is for real. And as I mentioned earlier on, we have had 43 casualties in Afghanistan. And I have been reading all those letters myself. And each time I have done so, I have really felt it's very personal. It's not just for fun.
But we train our whole lives to do that. I wanted that fight at the highest order. Yeah. I trained my whole career to fight, you know, and when it came, it was just like, you allow me to do my job. You know, there is the other side of it. Of course, there's the other side of it, and it's traumatic. But
and you are sent by someone behind the desk that you've never met.
But if they didn't send me, I'd be annoyed that they're not allowing me to do my job.
Yeah, and I realize that because, you know, without going into any details, I mean, I have been in situations where our special forces have asked for permission to do something on the ground, where we have made the assessment that this will not happen.
I understand that.
And when I have met those people later on a more private basis, they have actually been more or less angry on me. I mean, why didn't you? Yeah. Why didn't you approve? Why didn't you give the permission? So
you nod. This is the situation you've been in yourself.
Yeah, and I'm just talking from it. You know, if you didn't use us, then you'd have just as much uproar as if you did. I suppose you can't really get it right, can you? It's but I love my job. You know, I prioritise my job over my family, over my children, and I'm not proud of that. You know, but I did. You know, it was just I was waiting for that call, waiting. You know. First, I want to be the first man through that door. Use me. You've trained, you spent millions on me, training me.
When you were 16, and you joined the army, what was the push factor? What was the pull factor? How did that work?
I joined the army because I was a very sort of a very self-sufficient young man. You know, I always wanted to stand on my own 2 feet. I always wanted to, you know, to do my own thing, and I always loved a challenge. I'm an extreme doer, you know, and I'm not an intellect, I'm not a bookworm, I do. And 9 times out of 10 I fail, but I learn from that and I grow, right? So the military was just appealing because I could get away and do my own thing. I could have a roof over my head, be fed, all my, you know, little bit of money that I got, I could start to build my own life the way I wanted to. So it wasn't I'm going to go in and have this amazing career in the Special Forces. It's like, you know, as a youngster, all right, let me stand on my own two feet. Let me hold myself accountable for my life, and let's see where it takes me. And then the stepping stones, I was just good at what I'd done. I loved extreme soldiering. You know, I was a para, then a Marine, then a sniper, then a recce troop operator, and obviously the natural progression was into the United Kingdom Special Forces.
Did you have parents that inspired you for this?
No, my father passed away when I was 5 years old, so he was a computer engineer. My mother is, you know, she's off doing. I haven't seen her for years and years and years. I just, you know, just do my own thing. So it was just my decisions. You know, that's why it's, you know, I'm at quite a good stage of my life where, you know, I owe nothing to no one and no one owes me nothing. It's quite a nice place to be, you know.
Did you ever consider going into the army?
Actually, I have been singing for the army in Norway many times, and I was thinking about the stories that you were telling us, and the reason why I have been singing there is sadly that I'm singing there when someone's have died, and I'm singing at their funeral.
You have a son. He has been in Iraq, right?
Yes, and he's a reserve officer in the Danish army.
He's still serving?
Yeah, as a kind of officer by reserve, huh? So, but he spent almost a year in Iraq, but it was on our training mission. So, I mean, compared to what we did in Afghanistan, it was something completely different. But even though I know the feeling, and I especially know the reaction from his mother when he came home and told us that I have volunteered for Iraq. I mean, and it's a, you know, split emotion because you are proud as a parent, but there's also some risk linked to it.
Of course.
But how was it for you to return to normal life? Was that easy? Was that relieving, or was that difficult for you?
I thought it'd be quite easy. I thought, you know, if I can train myself to be the best soldier in the world, and I can train myself to be the best civilian in the world. But it didn't end up like that. You know, 6 months after leaving, I ended up in an altercation with the law, and I ended up serving 4 months in prison.
What happened?
I got into a nightclub altercation, and I ended up having a fight with a police officer. I was intoxicated. It was a clash of authority, basically. I reflected in prison about the time that I spent in the military and what I need to do to fit into society. And, you know, there's not any going on courses and, you know, becoming whatever it may be. It's just retuning your mind. That's all you have to do, is you just have to retune your mind, and that's exactly what I've done. I made a mistake, put my hands up, done my punishment, job done, move on.
Now you live as a civilian. Do you dream? Do you dream about Afghanistan sometimes? Yeah,
I have this reoccurring dream. And again, it's not flashbacks to that. I'm in a war zone with no weapon. And it's a reoccurring dream, and I'm always on the run. I'm always running from a conflict zone, because I get into this zone, I find myself in this conflict, and then I've got no weapon, and the enemy are there, so I'm like, all right, I've got to go. Yeah, and I just find it's really strange. I suppose it's the reverse of what I used to do. And again, it's not, you know, it's not anything to do with flashbacks or anything like that. It's just a reoccurring dream that I've had since I've left.
And Middleton, thank you so much for coming in. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the clip. For more interesting conversations, please hit subscribe.